passionate about governance reform, but don't necessarily have formal experience working in government functions. Does that disqualify them from applying?
I think fortunately, we're not looking for people who have experience formally working with the government. So passion for governance reform combined with relevant experience in community engagement or related fields can make you a valuable candidate. We want a diversity of thought. We want more people with experiences everywhere in the county to be a participant in this. So we want to make sure that you want to make sure you list your passions and your experience in detail in your application, because you never know, the type of experience that we need to cover is something that you have that someone else doesn't have. So in the application, please outline your experience in community outreach, engagement with marginalized or disadvantaged populations. And so this could also include your volunteer work or maybe some involvement that you have in a community-based organization. Or perhaps you've been a founder of your own a nonprofit organization or just a volunteer organization. And if you also conducted outreach to diverse stakeholders, any type of experience that you have should be incorporated in the application because, like I said before, we are looking for a very broad and diverse group of people. There are certain qualifications that we're looking at, and we're looking to identify a person from each of these groups. So by identifying your background and your experiences, you never know. You might be the person that we're looking for because we're not looking for just a homogenous group of people. We're looking for diversity.
Interesting. So now that you've been speaking about the application, can you talk about why it's so important to be detailed on the application?
Absolutely. So the purpose of this application is to collect information to determine your identity and eligibility to serve on a task force. So just like when people are applying for a job, oftentimes the hiring team does not know every candidate personally. Applicants should provide comprehensive details in their applications to ensure that evaluators can accurately assess their qualifications. The Executive Office of the Board of Supervisors will review all applications and exclude any application that does not meet the eligibility criteria. Only eligible applicants will be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors for consideration.
Okay. All right. And I see that if selected, the task force members must be willing to file a statement of economic interest, which is referred to as a Form 700. Can you explain more about this form and talk about what kind of financial disclosures are required?
So every elected official and public employee who makes or influences governmental decisions is required to submit what we call a statement of economic interest. It's also known as the Form 700. This form requires you to disclose financial interests to ensure transparency and prevent conflict of interest.
All right. So if I've never seen this form, can you explain how does it do that?
So the transparency and accountability is done in two ways. The form will require that you provide necessary information to the public about your personal financial interests to ensure that officials are making decisions in the best interest of the public and not enhancing their personal finances. And then second, it serves as a reminder to the public official of public potential conflicts of interest so the official can abstain from making or participating in governmental decisions that are deemed conflict of interest. So specific details about the disclosures can be found on the California Fair Political Practices Commission website. They're also known as FPPC.
Thanks. Okay. So it sounds like if applicants might have some kind of conflict of interest, they may not be a great fit to serve on the task force. Can you talk about what might disqualify a community member from applying to join the task force?
A real easy disqualification is if you are currently an elected official. That right away, you are disqualified for being on this task force. Another one is if you're working for an elected official as a staff or a paid consultant. So that's someone who has a contracted interest with an elected official. You're now disqualified. Or if you're a registered lobbyist, then you should be disqualified from applying to the task force. Immediate family members, such as a spouse, a child, an in-law or a parent or a sibling of any of these people, registered lobbyist, a paid consultant, an elected official, or someone who's working directly for an elected official, in these categories, you would also not be qualified to apply. It's important to note also that it's the status at the time you apply that is considered. So if you used to work for an elected official, or you were an elected official, or the relationship to the elected official was in the past, in that case, you will not be disqualified.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So how about people who are currently a candidate for local office in Los Angeles County?
So even candidates for office at any level, local, state, or federal, representing any area within LA County cannot apply to join the task force. This also applies to immediate family members, such as a spouse or a child, who are currently running for office. The goal is to recruit task force members who are not working as or working for current elected officials, or who are closely related to a current elected official.
Okay, and how about lobbyists?
Again, registered state or local lobbyists are disqualified from serving on the task force.
Okay, all right, okay. Last question from me on the disqualifications. How about local commissioners? Does serving on a local commission disqualify people from applying?
No, being a commissioner does not disqualify you from serving on the governance reform task force. Commissioners who serve in advisory capacities are allowed to apply. The disqualification only applies to individuals who are currently working as staff or elected officials, candidates, or lobbying for political interests.
Okay, all right. Thanks for clearing that up. So now let's tackle some frequently asked questions that were pre-submitted by community members. I think you mentioned this earlier, but can you confirm, when does the task force start and finish?
So the first meeting is expected to start on May 30th, 2025. That's why we're gathering applications now that are due on March 7th. And then between March 7th and that period of time, we'll be doing the selection of the members. And the completion of the work should wrap up by December 3rd, 2028, unless the board decides that they want additional work to be done.
Got it. Okay. And will the meetings be public?
Yes. Everything will be open and transparent and subject to the Brown Act, similarly to our board meetings, with chances for the community to give their input and with a focus on language accessibility. We are working on implementing a tool or an application to expand translation of meetings to encourage more people to participate.
That sounds good. And we already touched on the time commitment being an estimated 20 to 40 hours per month. And we confirmed that task force members will be paid on a per diem basis for their service. Oh, and Eddie, when will the per diem be determined and published?
We expect the per diem to be determined by the board after the county budget has been approved.
Got it. Okay. Great. So with that, thank you, Eddie, for sharing all of your knowledge with the Governance Reform Task Force. So for those of you who are tuned in, are you ready to throw your your hat in the ring? The deadline to apply is this Friday, March 7th. The deadline will not be extended, so please get your applications in this week. If you haven't already, visit measureg.lacounty.gov and click Apply Now to submit your application. You can fill out the application online, or if you would like to take a preview of the questions, you can print it out as a PDF and you'll be able to see the entire application. If you prefer, you can hand deliver your application to the Kenneth Hahn Hall of Administration at 500 West Temple Street, room 383 in Los Angeles. Please note that all mail-in applications will not be accepted. You must do your application online or hand deliver it to the hall. And as a reminder, our team has been answering questions live in the Q&A function of this Zoom meeting. If you have any remaining questions, please click on the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen and type your question in and click Submit. We will be reviewing some of those questions that came up now. So let's take a look at those. Okay, Eddie, the first one I'm seeing is, I'm over 18 and I live outside of Los Angeles County, but I work in Los Angeles County. Could I still apply?
Yes, again, the qualifications are not just for people who are living in LA County. You also will have just as much knowledge and information about LA County if you work here as well. So that is also an eligibility allowance, which is those who are working in LA County.
Got it. Okay. Next one is, will my involvement in the task force actually influence changes in the county? What kind of decision-making power will I have?
So again, the task force is an advisory body, which means that you're going to be providing recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. The opportunity here is to be able to work with government employees. You'll be meeting department heads, stakeholders, academia, experts in this field, and really trying to come up with solutions to how we move forward with the requirements that have come out through Measure G. And then once you put the plan together, we will then introduce that recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for approval.
Okay, all right. The next one that I'm seeing is, what does it mean that at least one member needs to represent business, municipal government, community-based organization, and public sector ethics expertise?
So this requirement is actually, it's a very broad requirement in these specific areas. So it's going to be really dependent on the answers that the applicant provides. But in general, if you have any experience or relationship in these areas, whether it's business, so if you're a business owner or perhaps you do a lot of business and you advise businesses, then you may be able to qualify under that particular area. In municipal government, perhaps you work as a government employee in a city, or if you somehow contract with the government, maybe you are a lawyer whose firm works for a city, that may qualify you. As for a community-based organization, you could be a member of a community-based organization. You could be on the board of a community-based organization, or perhaps you work often with a community-based organization. That may also qualify you. And as far as public sector ethics, maybe generally people would think something in academia, if you're an academic in public sector ethics, or perhaps there's you are a contractor or consultant in that area. Any of these are potential qualifications. So please incorporate that in your application so we have a better understanding to see if you can qualify under these particular criteria.
Okay. Thanks. And so then the next question that came in is, I see that labor organizations can nominate 3 members. Does this mean that those 3 members are automatically selected, or do they still need to go through the application process?
I'm glad you asked that question because we want to make sure everyone who is going to be selected for this 13-member body has to apply has to go through this application process. So even though we recognize that labor organizations will nominate one person, the person that they nominate has to fill out an application, because we will be giving the entire application pool to the Board of Supervisors to select one of their 5. And then from that pool of applicants, it will be brought over to the labor organization, and then they will select their 3. And after that, the remaining applications will be given to the 5 appointed board members to select the 5 at-large members.
Okay, okay. The next one is, what if I live in an unincorporated area of Los Angeles County? Do I have a chance of being selected?
Absolutely. In fact, there will be 2 out of the 13 members have to have someone residing in the unincorporated area of Los Angeles County.
Okay, all right. Does it, let's see, let me read this one out loud. Does being registered as a lobbyist with the city of LA, but not the county, disqualify someone?
So being a registered lobbyist is a disqualification regardless of jurisdiction.
Okay, okay. And if we serve as a member on a local planning council, may we still apply?
So as long as these local planning councils are advisory and not considered an elected official, you are not going to be disqualified from being a member of the governance task force.
Okay. And the next one is, are consultants hired by the county eligible to apply?
So a paid consultant or contractor for the county is not disqualified if they are hired by the county. It's only if they are hired by an elected official directly. So this could be like a campaign finance representative, or someone who works directly with the elected official to provide communications or media or advertisement. So if you're just a paid consultant who's working for the county or paid contractor, you still qualify.
Okay. Can someone who is serving as a commissioner for the city of Los Angeles apply, or does that preclude them from applying?
So long as you meet all the other minimum qualifications, being a commissioner who is appointed to a commission as an advisory body will not disqualify you. And so you are again, it's about being working directly for an elected official. That's going to be the disqualifier. But if you're a commissioner already in the city of Los Angeles, you still are qualified to apply for this membership of the governance task force.
Okay. The next one seems to be a little bit more about task force operations rather than the application process, but it is, will there be someone serving as the chair and or executive manager to guide the task force?
There will be someone from my office who will direct and guide the task force. You will not be alone in this journey of reaching out to stakeholders, putting the report together. We will have staff to help put that together. The role of the Governance Reform Task Force is to bring the ideas, to bring the knowledge, to bring the diversity of thought into building the structure in which we're going to use to ensure that Measure G is implemented.
Okay, and the next one says, isn't the board guided by the Brown Act for posting items? Why is there a posting increase to 120 hours?
So this is related to the particular part in the Measure G where we're requiring, instead of having a 72-hour notice to post agenda items before a meeting, this requirement is now being expanded to 120 hours for non-urgency legislation by Measure G. So Measure G made it so that we have more time for the public to review agenda items before the meeting is set to hear those items. And this also creates a process that provides notification to board offices and departments of updated filing instructions for board letters and motions to reflect the charter amendment change. So yes, it used to be 72, but because of the Measure G, it's now increased to 120 hours. The goal is to give more people time to review what's going to be on the agenda before the meeting.
Got it. Okay. That was helpful. And the next question is, can you tell us about the meeting structure? How frequent, what hours of the day or days of the week, and how long will the meetings be? How much of the time would be in person versus virtual?
So this will be really dictated by the members themselves. We will have some guiding principles on how often the members should meet. Typically, we have, in these types of task forces, we probably meet once a week, although there may be subcommittees or ad hoc committees who may meet separately. But generally, we would have a regular meeting that would be publicly noticed, subject to the Brown Act, with an agenda item set forth so that members of the public could attend and also address the issues. The frequency, the amount of hours, it will be dependent on how the project is going to be proceeding, and it's going to be dictated by the members themselves. And we will also have the option of including venues in all 5 supervisorial districts, as well as having remote options. We want as many participants as possible. We want to hear the voices to be involved in this change in government.
Okay. The next one says, how will the work of the task force be shared or divided? And who is it that will be making those decisions?
Again, the work of the task force and the work on the assignments will be determined by the task force members, but we will have staff who will be there to help monitor, help write perhaps, or format documents. There will be support for this task force membership, but a lot of the work and the type of work that you want to be involved in will be based on your interest. And there's going to be 13 members. The hope is we will divide it up into the 13 with support from my staff to be able to get this work done.
Awesome. Okay, and so I'm seeing a couple of other questions here in the Q&A. Wow, you've been busy. It looks like 46 questions have been answered. So thank you very much for that, team. Just a few things that I want to point out is people are asking about the recording of this. We are currently streaming to YouTube right now. So if you would like to check out this video at any later time, you can go to youtube.com/LA County BOS and check out the live videos. Will be posted and remain there. Another question that is in this Q&A is, why are locally elected officials disqualified from serving on the task force? And it looks like Steve has already been on there and has answered that this is what was determined by the board. It mentions the November motion. Eddie, I don't know if you want to talk about how folks can access this motion if they'd like to review it, how they can, go to our website at bos.lacounty.gov to determine those kind of things.
Right, or you could go on to our website, measureg.lacounty.gov. That will provide you a lot of information. In addition to the motions, there's going to be a variety of information on there to give you a little bit more background on the measure itself and how we got here.
Awesome. And I'm just scanning through a couple of these questions. It looks like many of them you've already addressed. So I'm not seeing any additional ones. Team, if you can go ahead and share that slide again that has the email address. So if you are online trying to complete your application later tonight or tomorrow, remember it has to be done this week. You run into a question, you can always email, check out the screen. It's info@measureg.lacounty.gov. So we encourage you to send an email to this email address, and we have folks monitoring this and will help to reply. So again, you can get your applications in this week. And with that, Eddie, I just want to give you one last chance. Is there anything else that you would like to mention to encourage people to get their applications in?
I think if anything, everyone check out the application on the portal. We also have a button on the upper right corner of the application where you could translate the application into multiple languages. We're trying to make this accessible to as many people as possible. We do want a diversity of people coming in to apply and to form this panel. But in order to have that diversity, we need you to apply. March 7th is the last date. Via the portal will be the easiest and fastest way. You'll be able to receive an automatic return response saying that your application was received. And again, please put as much information in your application as you can. Each of those boxes on the application portal will be able to fill up a lot of pages. So include as much information as you can, especially in answering those questions that allow us to understand your eligibility and whether you fit in some of those other criteria that we mentioned about, whether it's being in the unincorporated, living in unincorporated, or being in a business community, or in the in community-based organizations. Like, all this type of information needs to be incorporated in your application responses, so that our evaluators will be able to pick it up and understand where you fit into the roles of our membership.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Eddie. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. I hope you have a wonderful night. As a reminder, you can go to the website, go to YouTube to check out a video of this recording, and you can also email us in order to get more information. And you can find that email right here on the screen. It's info@measureg.lacounty.gov. Thank you, everyone. And